Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
You're listening to another edition of the business side of music. Couple guests in the studio with us today. Maybe I should say one of them's not actually a guest. He's a part-time co-host that maybe someday we'll make him a full-time co-host. We got Doak Turner from Music Starts Here. Welcome, Doak.
Hello, Bob. It's great to be on the show again with you.
And with us today from Shure Microphones. Welcome to the show. Laura Clapp Davidson is here. How you doing?
Doing well.
And we've got you actually on a Shure SM7 today, right?
That's right. An SM7B.
Yeah.
The legend.
Very cool. First of all, are you a Nashville native or a transplant? Or
I lived here when I first got out of Berkeley. I moved here in 2001. I lived here for about 7.5 years, but I've been gone for 11. So yeah, I miss it a lot. But we live in Connecticut now.
Were you a singer-songwriter?
Of course.
Musician?
Yeah. Yep. Did that. Did a lot of demo singing in studios not too far from where we are now, in houses and, strange spots, and downtown looked a lot different than it does now. Yeah. And it was a really fun time.
Yeah, absolutely. Downtown is, I think in the last 8-9 years, has changed into another city entirely.
It has. I walked out of I was in the airport yesterday, and I walked out down baggage claim and got completely disoriented because there was a giant wall in front of me where there was once a door to outside, and then the parking garage had been torn down, and they're telling me they're going to put up a hotel at the airport. It's just, every time I come here, I was here, I don't know, a year ago, less than that. It's something different, something totally different. So it's neat.
Have you been down Music Row lately?
I haven't. So I kind of don't want to, because I feel like it'll just make me sad. I mean, my husband's saying, oh, you should be happy because, the city's growing. And it is, and it's cool. But there's certain things I just don't want to change.
I'm the same way. I spent 10 years on Music Row when it was that hotbed of just, here's a record label, next door's a management company, next door's a recording studio, next door's a publicist, and all that's pretty much gone now. And not that it's left the city, it's just moved to other parts. Berry Hill is now kind of the hip place for the studios, and Franklin and Hendersonville, Donaldson areas, they're all kind of transitioning. So we have different hubs now instead of all being on Music Row. But one of the reasons you're here this week, let's talk about that, is of course the NAMM show is this week here in Nashville, Tennessee.
It is, yeah.
But more importantly, we're going to talk about the Shure product line, because it's more than just microphones these days.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
First of all, how did you get started with Shure?
It's actually kind of a cool story. So I was working for a marketing agency, took a 2-year break from this crazy MI industry, as we call it, because prior to Shure, I had worked for a company called TC Group Americas, and that was TC Helicon, TC Electronic, Dynaudio, Tannoy, all of those brands. I did their marketing for them. So I was taking a 2-year break, missing the industry real bad, and then an old friend named Mark Rahaley sent me a Facebook message of all things. And he said, hey, we're hiring at Shure. He's the regional sales manager for the eastern part of the country. And he said, I think you should take a look at it. And I did. And I applied. And here I am almost 2 years later. And it was for market development, which is just a fancy way of saying getting people aware of the brand who aren't already aware, because we've been around for 94 years. But if you take one step outside of this crazy industry, people don't really know who we are. So my job is to teach people about the brand, bring awareness to it in new and fun ways.
I was going to say, because I've been a musician pretty much most of my life, entire life, And I started out with, Shure SM58s and 57s, and I think the 565s. And, your product line, the branding of Shure, has been out there forever. It seems, I think, longer than in pretty much any other or most other microphone brands. It's obviously the common denominator when it comes to audio. Everybody calls the SM58 the workhorse of the industry. They're pretty non-destructive. You can beat those things pretty hard and they still, it's kind of like Timex. They take a licking and they keep on ticking.
That's right.
That's the SM58. But you actually started out, maybe going back a step further, you started out as a singer-songwriter, right?
I did. I still am a singer-songwriter. I have a show tomorrow, actually, that I got to get back home for. But yeah, I moved to Nashville after college. I went to Berkeley and decided that instead of starving to death in New York or LA, I'd starve a little more comfortably and moved here.
At least with Southern food and Southern hospitality.
Yeah, man, the food here is second to none. I know it's kind of like the best kept secret. I'll probably get killed later, but yeah, Nashville has the best food anywhere, in my opinion. So yeah, I moved here. And I was a singer-songwriter for a long time. Like I said, still am. That's the great part about being a singer-songwriter. You can do it forever. And made a living demo singing and just meeting friends and hosting something called Chick Singer Night at the Bluebird, and hosted a bunch of singer nights and open mic nights around town and played at them. And yeah, it was a great time. And then my husband got transferred to Ohio and whisked me away in 2008. And now we're back in Connecticut. So
Shure microphones, when we talk about the systems, it's just, you can talk about microphone management, I guess, to a certain perspective. What's the best microphone for what application? That's a lot of what I think is either misunderstood or understood. Is that a word?
It is now.
Yeah, it is. We've just created it. Doak, remind me, we're going to get that patented later. Or copyrighted.
Understood.
Understood.
He's writing it down.
Yeah, good.
No, I'm online right now.
Okay. All right. He's going to the phones, people.
It is the right microphone for the right application. And it really does make a difference because each microphone sounds differently for what they're being used for.
It does. And also, just like I say this to people a lot, just like with guitars, every mic is personal as well. So you start with your application. What are you going to be using it for? And how big of a room do you need to fill? How durable do you need it to be, etc. But then you have to try it. Because, you wouldn't show up to a gig as a guitarist and say, oh, I'll play whatever you have. First of all, they're not going to have anything. But second of all, your guitar is your instrument. And your microphone as a vocalist or a podcaster or content creator is your instrument. And if it sounds bad, then you're going to sound bad and your audience isn't going to have the best experience and your art is going to get kind of clogged up. So I always tell people and encourage people to try the mics whenever they can. And there's a couple of cool spots to do that in the retail world where you can try them out.
Where would that be?
Guitar Center has a really cool mic display set up right now. Several manufacturers, but we have a nice section for sure. And you can try the SM58 workhorse. You can try the SM7B. There's several others on there to just get a flavor, because I've had people come up and try a $500 mic and then try the $99 mic and they love it even more, or vice versa, and so you really don't know until you try it.
And it's much like how your voice sounds is finding that right microphone and how you tailor that to, because how I sound is different than Doak and how you sound is different than the both of us. So really is finding that microphone that is a perfect match.
Exactly, because there's a lot of different variables when you look at different microphones. There's different frequency response curves. So some sound better on male vocals or females. And you just have to kind of start with what you're going to be doing and go from there, but then try them out, because it's fair to ask to try a mic. If you're spending any money on it, you want to know what it's going to perform.
What are the biggest mistakes you see singer-songwriters doing with microphones, and what should they be doing? Or could that be another total show in itself?
No. A mic technique is something that I think could be explored in its own right. Like you said, its own subject. But microphones, not all microphones are built the same. Something that's great about the SM58 in particular is that it has this integrated shock mount built right into the handle of the mic, which allowed singers for the first time to be able to pick up the mic and rock out all over the stage without hearing handling noise. And so, as a singer, you want to make sure that you're getting a mic, if you know you're going to be doing that has that shock mount integrated, so that you can pick it up, grab it out of the stand and run all over the place and not have your audience hear a bunch of boominess. The other thing is, do not cup the mic. So you see all these singers on TV grabbing the head of the mic. If you do that, what it's doing is effectively turning your cardioid pattern of your mic into an omni mic. And what that means is it's opening up the surface and just essentially making you really prone to feedback. So don't cup the mic. You may think you look cool, but do you want to look cool or do you want to sound cool? You got to find the happy medium. So just move your hand down a little bit closer to the handle and just keep it off that grill of the mic.
It's kind of like singing on a stage versus singing underwater. It is that noticeable.
That's a great way of thinking of it. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's going to completely create proximity effect, which is what you get with a dynamic microphone when you get up on it. You'll notice you get that buildup of bass frequencies and it gets kind of boomy sounding. Well, if you cup it, it just enhances that to the umpteenth degree. So just, that's my PSA for the day. Do not cup the mic. Yeah.
And it becomes the sound man's nightmare.
It does.
You know, and then of course he's to blame. Everybody looks at him for it sounding horrible all of a sudden. Yeah, I get it.
That's the other tip. Don't point your microphone at your floor wedge if you're not using in-ear monitors, which I think most people still are not. Yeah, and when you do take that mic out of the clip to start rocking out all over the stage, just be sure to not point it at your floor wedge because that'll cause a massive amount of feedback and make everyone's lives miserable.
When we talk about microphones and the development of them, now the Shure SM58 has been around for how long?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
40 years?
More than that.
Yeah.
It's been around the first capsule of the SM58, 57, because the 57 and the 58 are the exact same microphone. I don't know if you knew that. They just have different grills, which causes a completely different sound signature, but not many people know that they're the exact same cartridge, capsule, everything.
I think I knew that. I wasn't sure, but yeah, because I have a good collection of 58s and 57s in my mic inventory, and know that the 58 is going to be my go-to vocal mic in live situations, and the 57s is, hey, it's when we're going to mic the instruments or drums or percussion or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
So hey, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about more Shure microphones, or maybe I should say more Shure period, because there's just a lot of other components that goes just beyond the microphone world of what Shure is involved in. In the studio with us today, our guest from Shure, Laura Clapp Davidson, and along with our co-host, Doak Turner. And you're listening to this edition of...
Hi, this is Bill Sinke. You've probably never heard of me, but you've heard of the business side of music. Good thing. Listen on.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hey, it's Chris SD from Sync Songwriter. Imagine what it would be like getting your music into the latest TV shows, movies, or ads. Your songs would not only get exposure in front of millions of viewers, you'd get paid to do it, and gain a reputation as the songwriter that you are. I've been showing songwriters, composers, and artists how to get their music into TV and film for over 15 years. Collectively, they have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars from licensing their music. Their music has been on networks such as HBO, Bravo, ABC, NBC, Netflix, and more. In films or trailers such as Predator, Annihilation, Christmas Chronicles, Professor Mac, and many others. So many songwriters upload their music to websites hoping to get discovered. Unfortunately, this almost never happens with the millions of songs out there competing for attention. I show you how to get your music heard by the people who can actually make it happen for you. When you start getting your music licensed, you automatically develop a reputation in the industry. This lets you get syncs over and over again. If you'd like to discover how to connect with the right people in music licensing, just click the Sync Songwriter logo on the Business Side of Music webpage, and I'll see you there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right. Everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
We're back in the studio with Laura Clapp Davidson with Shure Incorporated, along with co-host from Music Starts Here, Doak Turner. And we're talking about the company, Shure. And we touched on it in the first segment. Shure microphones is what we all know. I would say probably the majority of us in the entertainment business, in the music business, started out on Shure microphones. As I said, the 565s and then the 57s and 58s. And back in those early days of the late 60s, early 70s, we would just grab a Shure microphone because we knew no matter what, it's going to sound great. It really was head and shoulders above just a lot of the competition as far as I was concerned. I'm not saying that because you're here in the studio. I'm saying it because it was a proven fact for me back in those days.
Right.
And you could drop them and, oh my gosh, if you did that with like a Sennheiser 421, God bless you, because it was done and you were spending several $100s to get a new one.
Right.
But with an SM58, especially, or 57, you could drop them, pick them up, and test one, too, and it continued to work.
That's right.
But Shure has moved on into some other things now. You're not only in microphones, but wireless systems, headphones, earphones, conferencing and meetings.
Yeah, we make some incredible microphones that, for example, the MXA series, it goes in the ceiling. So it looks like a drop ceiling tile, essentially. So it's meant to blend right into whichever environment you're in that application. And what's so special about those is that you can dial in very specifically where you want the mic to capture. So if you have a conference table and, someone's sitting at the head of the table and then the other 5 people are scattered throughout, you can actually adjust the microphone to pick up each particular speaker and really dial it in. So
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty neat technology. And then we also make tabletop versions as well that you've seen, when you do a conference call.
Right.
So we make those conferencing solutions, gooseneck microphones for podiums, both wireless and wired, highly powerful solutions. And yeah, that's a whole other world that I don't even get to dip my toes into very often because I'm over here in retail. Yeah, it's incredible.
Shure microphones, the Shure technology that you're describing here, it's constantly changing. As a manufacturer, are you finding new and improved technology to create new microphones?
Yeah, we I want to say 6 years ago, maybe more, we'd have to check our facts, but we released something called the KSM8, and that employs something called dual dyne technology. So we talked about the unidyne design of the SM57, the 58. A while back, we said, well, we make the best handheld microphones and dynamic microphones, we like to think, but we kind of didn't want to rest on our laurels. We kind of wanted to shake things up. So we threw out all the designs and started over and thought, okay, how can we make this even better? Let's completely ignore what we've done and start from scratch. And the dual dyne was born, and it's 2 capsules in one. So 2 diaphragms, essentially. And what that lets you do is it eliminates proximity effect. Because of the way the microphone is engineered and the way the signal flows and the air flows into the microphone, it effectively cancels out that proximity effect. So this is a really great mic for people with not the best mic techniques. It's kind of like the sound engineer's dream because you don't have to EQ it between different speakers. That's the best feedback we've had from the field, is that like in house of worship applications, if you're going from one band to the next or one pastor to the next, or, people are sharing their joys and concerns, it can be a nightmare to EQ that and engineer it. But with this, you have a nice flat response to everybody. And because you can do it, it gives you a nice, larger and even sweet spot. You can be off axis a little bit, a little further away from the mic, and it's still going to pick you up. It's really, really interesting to give it a try.
You brought up something. We actually talked about this on last week's episode. We had a guest on the show, a star, a television star in country music, an Americana artist, who said she had to learn mic technique. She had to have someone to show her how to properly not even hold it, but use it and
interact.
And when you said getting off access, or a lot of my wife and I'll do this. We'll watch shows on television and I'll go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that person's holding that microphone the way it is, because, it's not an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
You're not licking it. You're not using it as a swab on the side. It's,
Swab.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one.
I see people holding on to the mic and the mic stand like it's a life raft.
Yes. Yeah,
Is
exactly.
that something you recommend?
Holding on to it for dear life. No, I mean, how you hold it is really kind of up to you, and that's not going to really make or break it. It's really your physical proximity to the microphone itself. So we say kind of like an inch or two off the mic max, but you want to be right on the center of that mic. So pointing it up towards your mouth, as opposed to the ice cream cone that we just talked about. And then getting off axis is also really important. So if I go off axis in this mic, your listeners will hear that I just disappeared, because this is a dynamic microphone with a cardioid pickup pattern, and that gets a little geeky, but the cardioid pattern essentially is a heart-shaped pattern named for cardio, like the heart, and it picks up in that nice round sweet spot just around the microphone, but it's made that way so that if you have a band blaring at you as the singer, you don't want to pick them up and get them down the mic and start having them get picked up, which can cause a feedback loop. So that nice cardioid pickup pattern is great for directional capturing for voice and instruments. But when you do go off axis, you lose the voice. So that's something that you have to keep in mind and learn to do as a singer so that you don't lose your pickup.
And do we recommend the Roger Daltrey method
of swinging it around? No, we don't, although he's cool. He's so cool. We have a bunch of his mics, and we have a museum on site in Shure's headquarters in Niles, which I highly recommend if you can come take a look. It's really neat. And yeah, you can see the 58 with the tape on it, holding that XLR cable in there for dear life so that it doesn't go flying out into the audience. But yeah, that would be, I don't know, the sound engineer probably did not have the best time with that.
I have a thought. We need to get, since the mic is an instrument, the Musicians Hall of Fame has all the instruments. The mic is an instrument. We need to tie you in to put some of those in down there.
Well, I wonder if some of the Unidyne mics are there. Like you think the Elvis mic, the 55, that's the one that's like the big grill that looks like the front of a Chrysler. Yes, I think it was a Chrysler. Yeah, I mean, those mics are legendary. They're on postage stamps, several postage stamps. And we have a lot of intellectual property with that particular microphone itself and the 58, where, people just think of it as being ubiquitous with the term microphone, but it's ours. So you got to make sure that
it's branding.
It's branding. Yeah. It is branded. Yeah. So
absolutely.
What always intrigues me is the wireless mic, but they're using the headset and so forth. I know that must take a lot. I've talked to a manager who's talking about one of his big stars, one of the biggest stars. How she had to learn to adjust to use that because she went on tour with an artist who performed in the round.
Okay.
She had to get. What's your advice on someone who wants to start using those mics?
So head-worn mics are really application dictated. So, if you're going to be needing your hands free and you want to be able to dance and you want to be able to move around, then head-worn is definitely the way to go. And we just came out with a new line of microphones called Twinplex, which are really shaking things up. They are the smallest capsules we've ever made. They're really solving a lot of problems that head-worn mics are kind of prone to, and lavalier mics, specifically in the theater side of things too. If you wear a wireless head-worn or lavalier mic, they're really prone to breakage or moisture problems, sweat outs we call them, which is a lovely term. So we've made these capsules that are impervious to sweat outs and cabling that is strong enough. We took our inspiration from cabling that goes into surgical applications. So you can really stretch the heck out of these things and they're not going to get all kinky or brittle. And so, so if you're going to be doing that, the adjustment there is just remembering that the mic is going to be an omni capsule. So it's going to capture you no matter what you do. So don't forget that it's on, number one. But number two, you don't really have control of moving around to accommodate for louder portions of the song or quieter portions. So you just have to kind of learn how to work with the mic so that it's able to capture.
It becomes more of a voice control at that point then.
Yes. But I mean, the Twinplex is unbelievable in how well it does capture in a number of different scenarios. So you don't have to adjust as much with that one. But yeah, when you are singing into a head-worn, it's a bit of a different experience.
We're going to take another break, get in a word in for a couple of our other sponsors. In the studio with us today, co-host from Music Starts Here, Doak Turner, and guest Laura Clapp Davidson with Shure. and you're listening to this edition of...
This is Bob Ekman of Country Music Fantasy Camp, and you're listening to my favorite music business podcast out there with Bob Bender on the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Wow, I just joined the Music Starts Here community. This is a truly hidden gem for anyone in the music business. Whether you live in Nashville or anywhere else in the world, Music Starts Here is like a GPS for your music career. This is the place to be if you want to get advice and direction from some seriously talented musical people who have been where you want to go. Music news, events, and a great big community with resources for artists, songwriters, musicians, studio and tech, along with music business advice from pros in the industry, all on one site. Make sure you get your free profile now. Go to www.musicstartshere.org. That's musicstartshere.org.
Hi, this is Vinny Rebus, the founder of Indie Connect. Our goal is to ensure that you have the knowledge, the tools, skills, resources, and connections that you need to develop a profitable and long-lasting career in music. One way we do this is through these Business Side of Music podcasts. I'd also like to invite you to check out Indie Connect magazine, our free multimedia online publication packed with practical interviews and advice from music industry experts. Go to www.indieconnectmag. That's www.indieconnectmag.com. Let us walk with you and guide you every step of your musical journey.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio, co-host Doak Turner from Music Starts Here, and guest Laura Clapp Davidson with Shure. And we've been talking about a lot of the different aspects of Shure microphones, your wireless systems, your conferencing and meetings, headphones and earphones. Is that a relatively new direction for Shure?
Relatively in the past 10 to 15.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty new for a 94-year-old company, I guess. So we make in-ear monitors, which a lot of people might be familiar with, wireless in-ear monitors that let you rock out all over the stage wirelessly. But we realized these earphones sound great. So why don't we make these available to people who want to listen to music? And you can, of course, use your earphones that come with your wireless system to listen to music too, but they're the exact same earphones. And the thing that makes them so cool is that they use something called sound isolation technology, which is just a fancy way of saying that we give you such a nice seal, which with our memory foam sleeves that attach to the earphones, that it blocks out any sound that's going to come in aside from your music to give you a really nice listening experience. So it's kind of like the material of an earplug, so nice and soft. You give them a little squeeze, get the earphones seated in the right spot. They expand to fill your ear canal and block out the rest of the world so you can have an awesome listening experience.
It's a custom fit earphone without having to go through the custom fit.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, custom molds are fantastic in their own right, but not a lot of people want to go through that or can afford it. Yeah, our SE215 sound isolating earphones start at $99. They're detachable, so you can make them go from a wired to a wireless Bluetooth cable just by popping off the earphone itself. You can take the sleeves off, clean them if they get kind of gunky, and put them back on. They're really durable. Everything we make is really durable. That's kind of what we're known for. We make everything from a single driver SE215 all the way up to our electrostatic portable system, which is unbelievable. Those are the KSE 1500s, and just a nice range in between, so that if you wanted to have, if you're a true audiophile and you want to have 4 drivers and have that really nice listening experience, the SE 846 is a great way to go. Those have 4 different drivers in each earphone.
Excuse me, an earphone.
An earphone, yeah. We can't call them headphones because they go in your ear. You know, so think of it like an earbud. That's what the normal people call them, but
the consumers, right?
Yeah. So it's just an earphone, a headphone that goes inside of your ear.
But 4 drivers.
4 drivers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit of technology.
It sounds
really
amazing.
kind of squeezed down into a small environment.
It is. And then the electrostatic one is even crazier because that, instead of using a magnet as the driver, it uses a piece of mylar thinner than a human hair. And it has these 2 electrostatically charged plates around it. And so it's the purest recreation of the music that you can get. So you'll listen to songs you've heard your whole life and hear things that you never heard before. It's is really something that has to be experienced.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of my biggest bone of contentions has been over the years in the studio, artists and producers have compressed music so much to fit into earbuds that we're losing a lot of those dynamics.
Yeah.
And this, to me, sounds like this might be a good way to turn things around.
Yeah.
Because what you said, you're missing things. I still go back to the days, Santana Abraxas album, or Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon, or Chicago Transit Authority, any of that really just great old analog music. And I can listen to it 40 years later, plus, and still hear new things if you take the time to be quiet and be in a quiet surrounding or quiet setting. And you can go, wait a minute, I didn't know those congas were there, or
Right.
I can hear that saxophone part or whatever. Earbuds in the traditional sense doesn't allow that.
Right.
Which is typically why you either have very nice speakers or you have really nice headphones.
Right.
But you're saying these earbuds really does the same thing.
Exactly. And we also make great over-ear headphones as well. And those aren't really new for us. That's called the SRH line. So there's SRH 440, kind of like the entry-level $99 version for studio use, and then the SRH 1540s and 1840s. The 1540s are closed back. Those are fantastic for audiophiles, for people who do a lot of mixing, mastering with headphones. They're just really nice, really easy to wear for long periods of time. You don't have a lot of fatigue with those. So there's some really cool offerings that we make, and I think a lot of people don't realize that Shure makes headphones. So I've been kind of tasked with exploring that, and also our USB microphone side of things, which we haven't talked about yet, and that's kind of my baby.
MV88 Plus.
The MV88 Plus is the latest and greatest. It came out last CES, or last NAMM, in January. It's a stereo condenser mic that comes with a full kit so that you can start creating content right away in extremely high fidelity. And you can control the microphone's polar pattern using an app. There's an audio only version and a video version as well. So that's really great if you're using it. Let's say we wanted to go to the NAMM show tomorrow and do kind of like a guy on the street. So I would set it to stereo mode and walk around the show floor to capture the sounds of the show and have that stereo image. And then I could quickly swap the microphone around to face me, because it comes with this cool like tripod and phone clip and shoe mount for the mic. Face me, do a quick vlog in cardioid pickup pattern mode, which we said was really directional. And then let's say I was lucky enough to run into Doak and I wanted to interview him, I could switch it into mono bidirectional, which then makes each side of the microphone active. So I would turn it sideways. I'd be on one side, Doak would be on the other. I don't have to bust out a whole bunch of mics or a different rig, and I'm recording directly into my phone, so I don't need another interface. It's awesome.
Oh, you mean like what we do here on the podcast?
Maybe.
With all the microphones.
Which is fine. I mean, that's awesome too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm old school, so.
That's not old school. You're very high tech with your Zoom.
Kind of hard to break old habits.
It is.
Let's talk about the Content Creator Series.
So in addition to the MV88 Plus, there's several other mics in that line. They all fit a different need. So the MV88, which came before the Plus, plugs directly into the lightning port of your iOS devices. So that's really great for like mobile journalists or people who want to capture content on the go and just plug in the mic, get great sounding audio. It's good for songwriting sessions too, because you just set it on the desk and go. And then we make the MV5, which is a condenser microphone, small diaphragm condenser that sits on your desktop. And it has a couple presets in it, audio out on the back so you can monitor it in real time. I like using that one for all of my Blue Jeans calls, my conference calls. It has amazing sounding audio, but it's great for podcasting too because of that form factor. And then the MV51 is the next one up from that, a large diaphragm condenser, 5 different preset options, audio monitoring on the back, and it can unscrew and go onto a microphone stand or sit on your desktop. So that one sounds great. Really nice for like capturing. If we wanted to put just one of them in the middle of the desk, we could capture all 3 of us talking right now. We could capture a bluegrass trio. Because of that large diaphragm condenser, it's able to capture a lot of the details and the richness. Sounds really great on the voice.
And quality level?
Yeah, high quality. Very high quality. And all of these have micro USB outs. So they go directly micro USB to Lightning or micro USB to standard USB or to USB-C. And then there's a lav version, a lavalier that goes right into your phone for interviewing. That's super handy. And what am I forgetting? Oh, the MVI, my favorite. The MVI would be great for you if you wanted to move away from the Zoom recorder and start going with this microphone directly into a computer or your phone. The MVI is a single channel interface, little box, XLR in, and a micro USB out to whatever you're plugging into, and some headphones out. And so you're just good to go. You just plug your microphone that you already have in there and get into your computer.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of product names and info I sent your way. So you can go to shure.com/motive, I believe is the URL, but MOTIV to find out about all of our cool content creation mics.
Talk about your site a little bit. What's the best way to navigate? What are some cool things? People like, okay, I know about mics, but liable to learn something on your site about the industry. To talk about some of those things on your...
We just relaunched Shure.com not too long ago, and it's got a nice new navigation where you can start from an application standpoint. So first land on the page, and it gives you 3 different categories, I think. One of them is performance and production. So you click on that, and it says, I want to blank, and I'm using it blank. And it kind of guides you through with these little drop downs of what you want to do and what mic you want to use. And then that will dictate kind of the microphones that you select, and it'll guide your journey so that you're not just going in there blind. So it says, tell us what you need. I need what to what. And then it guides you through the rest if you go there, and then it'll suggest your products and guide you down the path. There's also a really robust support section on Shure.com. And if you go there, there's some learning you can take. There's also a ton of videos on our YouTube channel. We're always putting out new educational tools for people to learn.
I think that's so important too. And we talked about that in the beginning, which is you go and you spend time in the music store and you find the guitar that you like, you find the amplifier that you like. My goodness, you find the cable that you like, But a lot of people don't spend the time on the microphones. And once again, it depends on the application, whether it's a podcast like this, or it's television or radio, or it's getting on stage in front of 100 people or 100,000 people. But and Doak said this so perfectly, the microphone is an instrument.
Yeah.
And it really is finding the right one. So these tutorials will help you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some great microphone basics. There's wireless basics. I just did a webinar on Monday about an introduction to wireless. So if you've never bought a wireless system before and you've been tasked with doing it, either by your house of worship or by your friend or your club or whatever, it's a good one that kind of gives you a breakdown of all the components of a wireless system and kind of gives you the basics so you're armed with knowing what you need to do to buy one. But because it's pretty daunting. Wireless can be a little confusing if you don't know what you're looking for.
And to find all this, Shure.com is the place to go.
That's the place to go.
For let's say a young singer, songwriter, young artist, what are some things they should or should not say to the sound man? Because they're going to blame him for that mic not working or whatever. But I think, what's the best way to get along with the sound man, to have him help? He can help you or hurt you at times, right? Or
he
wrong.
or she, too.
Yeah, he or she, I'm sorry. But what are some things you've learned over the years on how to best get along with a sound man?
First of all, learn their name so that you're not just saying, hey, sound dude, can you do this for me? Because, they're just doing their job, and their job is to make you sound good. And if you're a jerk to them, they're going to make it, it's not going to be good. So learn their name, learn how to communicate, learn the terms that you need. So don't just say, I can't hear myself. Say, I need more me in the wedge, which would mean, please turn me up in the monitor that's at my feet. Or, I think I sound a little bit muffled, maybe in my mid-range, and that's something that you have to just kind of learn over the years. But if you feel like your voice is sounding too sharp, that could be your highs that need to be turned down. So, just taking the time to learn how to communicate so that you're not just saying, turn me up or turn me down, or I can't hear myself, and looking at them like it's their fault. They're not psychic. You got to tell them what you want. But yeah, learn their name and learn how to ask politely.
And I think also learn enough about frequencies, so low, mid, and high. Because when you say, hey, I sound a little muddy or muffled, at least wrap your head a little bit around on what's causing that. Because ultimately it's you on the stage, it's you performing, it's you singing. So spend a little time learning those aspects of it too. Just don't be a singer and get up there and sing.
Right. I think as singers, we've been given kind of license to be lazy over the past million years because we just show up and...
Especially on load in.
Exactly.
And load out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Here's my microphone.
Yeah. But I can remember being in Nashville and doing rounds, and, you know, you have 45 seconds to maybe even like 4 seconds to get your stuff together, and just knowing what might be a pain point for you like ahead of time. If you know that you tend to be a little more bright, if you have a higher voice that's a little more piercing, or, you know, if you're a guy that's more baritone or bassish, you know, maybe you need a little bit of boost or roll off. You just want to know your voice, because it's just like any other instrument. You wouldn't go in blind and plug in and hope for the best. So take ownership.
That once again goes back to spending the time with the different microphones and figuring out what works best. And you may not always get that sweet spot microphone on stage.
Unless you bring your own, which I encourage you to do.
But sometimes you can't, like in the Songwriters in the Round.
True.
You know, so learn how to adjust accordingly.
Most sound people I've encountered are fairly open, unless you're coming at them with some super complicated, you know, high-end mic, which there really isn't anything. The highest or the most complicated is that's going to be a condenser, and you're going to need phantom. But rule of thumb, you don't really want to use a condenser on stage unless you're using one that's geared for that, like our KSM9, for example. Beautiful sounding condenser mic made for live performance. But for the most part, if you spend the money on a KSM8, for example, and you know that that's what you want your voice to sound like, then you say, I'd like to use this microphone. And they should have no problem swapping that out. Because if they've EQ'd the night and they've got, you know, 3 SM58s up there, putting a KSM8 on there is going to require pretty minimal lifting from them as far as EQing out whatever they're not liking. But you know that you at least have your baseline where you want it to be.
How often do you get approached by artists to say, hey, I want an endorsement. I love your mic. And how should someone go about that professionally? They want an endorsement.
Right.
I love your mic. What's the proper way they can, and the mistakes that you've seen people make in approaching a representative of your company?
I mean, first of all, you need to think of what you can offer to the brand, because the brand would be offering you the power of their marketing engine and their tools that they've established for several years. So if you go to somebody and you say, you know, I'm touring and I've got 1,500 fans or whatever, you know, that's great. But what you need to have is a clean presentation that you can send to them after the trade show or wherever you're accosting this poor person, so that they're not trying to make a decision on the spot, because it's awkward as all get out when somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, do you have an endorsement program? And you're like, of course we do. But like, do you think we're going to be able to give it to you if all you're asking for is free stuff? Like, you have to make your case. It's a business. So what can you bring to the brand that would make the brand want to help you?
And the other thing is, you're not the only one asking for that endorsement.
Right.
There's a lot of artists and acts that are the same, like, kind, and quality. Mm-hmm. And it really, not that you want to single anybody out, but it has to be not only beneficial for the artist, but it has to be beneficial for the manufacturer, whether it's Shure or whoever it is. It's got to make sense for everybody. So I think the mindset of the artist looking for the endorsement deal has got to understand that too. Mm-hmm. You're not in the business to give away free product.
Right.
Unless it creates an ultimate benefit for everybody.
Right. What can you bring to the table? How can the brand help you? Is it going to make sense? Is it going to be a mutually beneficial relationship? Because we're not in the business of giving out free stuff, but we do love supporting artists. So you can always contact Shure and try that path. And I know on the socials, a lot of people reach out to us that way. Also, just on the support side of things, I was mentioning kind of our online learning tools. If you go to Shure.com and click support, there's a really great drop-down menu, and there's something called the Shure Audio Institute. And we do new modules all the time. If you click on online training, we just did one called Wired Microphones 101, and it's really helpful for people who've never used a microphone in their life. They want to know how it actually works and then why they would choose one over the other. It's a great place to start there. And there's like a fun quiz that you do. So it's an interactive learning module. So lots of great tools and resources there.
Yeah, to me, that makes perfect sense. Laura, thanks for being on the show. This has been great.
Thanks for having me.
Doak, always a pleasure.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you.
Don't forget to check out our affiliates, including Lab Canna, fine hemp products since 2014. Click on their link on our website for more information and how to order their product line. If you're interested in getting your music into film or television, click on the Sync Songwriter link on our website. Absolutely the best way to get your songs listened to by top TV and film music supervisors. This is how you can get your songs quickly licensed for your favorite TV shows and movies. Click on our website link to get a free digital copy of Larry Butler's new rulebook for singers and songwriters, 101 ways to help improve your chances of success. Also, check out our other affiliate, Music Starts Here. You can find them at musicstartshere.org. Probably the best one-stop shop for the singer, songwriter, or aspiring musician who's relocating to Nashville or wants to. Last but not least, shameless plug for this podcast. Become a YouTube subscriber by going to the Business Side of Music page. You can hear all of our released episodes there. Also, check out our website at businesssideofmusic.com. Follow us on Facebook at the Business Side of Music Podcast and on Twitter at BizSideOfMusic.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.